Call this meeting to order. If everyone could please stand and join us for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Scalise.
Aye. Here.
Trustee Galuza.
Here.
Trustee Reiser.
Here.
Trustee Christofferson.
Here.
Trustee Wilson.
Here.
Trustee Mattson is absent. Mayor Balderman.
Here. All right, board, first up, we have a proclamation that we make annually here. And although I'm beginning to think, Sharon, that this is like 3 times a year, I cannot believe it's been 12 months. Is that how long it's been? Yes. Well, it's crazy. I cannot believe it's been, that's what happens as you get older. Time goes by way quicker. But anyway, this is really, the first year we did this, there was unfortunately some controversy surrounding it that we actually made this proclamation. And most of the time in government, we find that the controversy comes from misunderstanding. And so this is something that I feel very strongly about, that this group feels very strongly about, that they give so much of their time and effort to discussing this issue, and it is National Gun Violence Awareness Day. And as you can imagine, for those of you who are new to the board, the controversy stemmed around the fact that there's always this thought that people are trying to take guns away. And there are those that do want that. But that's not what this group is all about, and that's not what this day is about. As a former police officer and as a strong supporter of the Second Amendment, we all should agree that if people are going to own guns, they have to be responsible gun owners. We have an obligation to the loved ones in our home where those guns are stored. We have an obligation to keep them in a place that's safe in case someone should burglarize our home or whatever the case may be. So we can, I think we all would agree that on almost all issues, we can find common ground, and this is one that we absolutely should be able to find common ground on. And I like to spend a little bit of time talking about this, not just handing out the proclamation, because it's really important when you hear some of these statistics. Every day, more than 125 Americans are killed by gun violence. And on average, there's nearly 18,000 gun homicides every year. So 125 people a day are dying by gun violence, 18,000 homicides by weapons. Americans are 26 times more likely to die by gun homicide than people in other high-income countries. Illinois has an average of 1,719 gun deaths every year, with a rate of 13.8 deaths per 100,000 people, a crisis that costs the state $18.6 billion each year, of which $625.5 million is paid by the taxpayers. Illinois has the 31st highest rate of gun deaths in the United States, and that's shocking to me that we're that high. I would thought we'd been much higher, that we're that low. Gun homicides predominantly occur in cities, with more than half of all firearm-related gun homicides in the nation occurring in 42 cities. Cities across the nation, including New Lenox, are working to end senseless violence with evidence-based solutions. Protecting public safety in the communities where they serve is our responsibility to do. We know with law enforcement what's best for our town, and we're most familiar with what's happening in our town and how to address it. But gun violence prevention is more important than ever, as we see an increase in firearm homicides, non-fatal shootings across the country, increased calls to domestic violence hotlines, and an increase in city gun violence. Every day you can turn on the news and see what's happening in the city of Chicago primarily, but it happens out in the suburbs as well. It happens in every community. This day came about because back in January 2013, Hydea Pendleton was tragically shot and killed at the age of 15. And on her 28th, what would have been her 28th birthday, People across the United States are going to recognize National Gun Violence Awareness Day wearing orange in tribute to Heidi Pendleton and other victims of gun violence, as well as the loved ones of those victims. Anyone can join this campaign by pledging to wear orange on June 6th, the first Friday in June, to help raise awareness. By wearing orange on June 6th, Americans will raise awareness about gun violence and honor the lives of gun violence victims and survivors. And we absolutely renew our commitment to reduce gun violence and to pledge all we can do to keep firearms out of the wrong hands and encourage responsible gun ownership to keep our children safe. So I want to say thank you to all of you who are here tonight for the work that you do tirelessly, year after year, day after day, to bring attention to this matter. And this is a space where we should all be able to live comfortably by saying, if you choose to be a lawful gun owner, you should be responsible in that. And so I'd ask you to step forward. Bring the whole crew up if you want.
And I always say I
Well, you
have
like
like a step ladder here,
There
so
you
I'm
go.
not so
Well,
short.
up and
but
down. Here you
that's-
go. Please, come on up. Thank you.
Somebody come over here. Over this side. Thank you. Yeah.
There you go.
I know, I'm in the middle, I'm off.
Here, you want to go first? Sir?
Thanks, thank you.
Yeah, come on in.
Come on in, stand next to you. Stand next to your wife here.
There you go. Come on in. All
Thank
right.
you.
Here you go. Please feel
Thank
free
you.
to say a few words. We
Okay. Well, first, I want to thank you, Mayor Balderman, and the board, because as Mayor Balderman said earlier, I think this is our 8th or 9th year of doing this, and I work tirelessly every day, every year, to try to make our community safer. So I really appreciate your continued support for this. So in past years, I shared with you the statistics regarding firearm deaths, including suicides, unintentional shootings, and homicides. Every day on the news, we hear about these types of tragedies to know that gun violence in our country is an important issue. But today, I'm honoring with action the following individuals who are no longer here with us due to firearms. Here are some of the names of the people, of the families that I've met, and also, unfortunately, someone I have known who has died by firearm. They are Don, Tommy, Ricky, Ethel, Craig, Alexandria, John, Tyler, Kenneth, Ethan, Deontay, Rayanne, Thaisa, Jeffrey, Christopher, Marissa, Katie, and Ryan. Please wear orange on June 6th to honor survivors and build a community with these people who are working to end gun violence. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your work. Thank you, all of you, for being here tonight. We
Thank you.
appreciate you. Thank you. Okay, thank you for that, Board. Next up is our consent agenda, which consists of 6 items. They are the Proclamation for National Safety Month, approval of the fob system upgrade, ordinance authorizing disposal of surplus property, Public Works, approval of purchase water insertion valve system, approval of proposal for weather insurance for the summer concerts, and approval of purchase for exhibit signs for the KidsWork Children's Museum with Image 360. Does any member wish any of those items to be pulled and discussed separately? Okay, if not, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Scalise, second by trustee Wilson. If there's nothing further, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Christopherson?
Aye.
Trustee Galuza?
Aye.
Trustee Scalise?
Aye.
Trustee Wilson?
Aye.
Trustee Riser?
Aye.
Mayor Balderman?
Aye, motion carries. Thanks, John. Okay, next up, we have consideration for approval of a resolution authorizing encroachment agreement, Spencer Road Water Main, ECA Solar. Robin?
Yes, in February, the board voted not to object to a county special use for a commercial solar energy facility on about 35 acres west of Spencer Road, just south of the CN Railroad tracks. The village has, since 2005, had an easement that runs through the property, which is shown in red on this slide. And even though the solar facility will be separated with two separate fenced-in areas, they do need to cross the village's easement with the roadway and with some underground electrical equipment. So staff worked with the solar energy company and the village attorney on an encroachment agreement, which gives the owner, the solar company, the owner, the right to construct those improvements, but says that any costs incurred by the village, if we have to relocate them, or if it causes any problems with our water main, they would be responsible for reimbursing us. And I do believe there is a representative here if the board has any questions.
All right, is the petitioner here, is there anything you'd like to add at this time, or no? All right, any questions for the petitioner or Robin? No? All right, now is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Riser, second by trustee Scalise. Comments or questions? Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Wilson?
Aye.
Trustee Christopherson?
Aye.
Trustee Galuza?
Aye.
Trustee Scalise?
Aye.
Trustee Riser?
Aye.
Mayor Balderman?
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, next up, we have consideration of an ordinance granting special use for a roof-mounted commercial solar energy facility, 2250 Berens Drive, first read.
Yes, this proposal is to construct a commercial solar energy facility on top of the roof of the 1 million square foot building on the west side of Gauger Road. The Plan Commission held a public hearing on the request. There was one couple residents of the nearby Jacobs Field subdivision that were concerned about what they would see and or hear. The petitioner provided information saying that the solar panels don't generate any noise, and at night when they're not capturing solar, they don't make any noise at all. In addition, because it is roof-mounted and there's existing parapets, the view from the residential area, you will not be able to see them. So another question the Plan Commission had is why it was only taking half of the roof and why wasn't it the west half? And the petitioner explained that the point of connection with ComEd on the east side of Gauger Road necessitates it having to take up this part of the roof. So it is about 12 acres of the 27-acre roof. The setback from the roof lines is 10 feet to the north and south and 15 from the east, which further provides buffering. In addition, these are static, so they don't tilt at various angles throughout the day. They're static in the angle, and they only project about a foot above the roof line. So included in packet is an ordinance granting the special use. Staff is working with the petitioner on more detailed plans for what does need to be on the ground on the north side of the building. So that exhibit would be attached to the ordinance when it's presented to you for second read.
All right, very good. Any questions for Robin on that?
Just a couple of comments. First of all, I love the fact that we're starting to see these things go on rooftops, especially commercial industrial buildings, as opposed to taking up land that could be used for other things or just kept natural. We've got 1 million square foot buildings with parapets where you're not able to see them. So that's great that we're seeing that now. Also, I just wanted to say good job to staff. It looks like you guys are really making sure we're doing this right in terms of making sure that things are hidden, conduits being painted the same color as the building, ground mounted equipment being disguised with fence and landscaping, to making sure that proper access is given to the fire department in case these things catch fire. As we saw down the road, it can happen at the IKEA building a couple weeks ago. So just wanted to say great job on making sure that this is done right.
Thank you.
Very good. All right, anything else? All right, we'll bring that back then for second read. All right, next up is consideration of an ordinance granting sign variance 1000 East Lincoln Highway CoVantage Credit Union, first read.
Yes, this is a variance to allow CoVantage Credit Union to have an electronic message center component. This is their existing monument sign, and they are proposing to construct a new sign utilizing the same base, but also including an electronic message center. Staff worked with the petitioner for a couple months to minimize the number of variances that are required, so the overall sign size, height, the percentage of the sign that is the electronic message center is all consistent with the village code. The one variance that is required is the separation. The zoning ordinance requires 500 feet between electronic message center signs. Newmark Credit Union on the northwest corner currently has had a sign there for a number of years. We did try to see if the sign was pushed further to the east of the CoVantage site, if you could get that 500 feet, and you could not. So when the Zoning Board of Appeals considered this request, there was some discussion of whether we needed to look at that provision of the zoning ordinance. There are other areas. In this case, because of the setbacks of the right-of-way of Route 30, the signs are set back pretty significantly from Route 30 compared to, say, Joey's electronic message center sign that's like 15 feet from the right-of-way line. But ultimately, the zoning board did recommend approval of the variance and thought that rather than look at amending the zoning ordinance now, see if we get similar requests in the future. So the ordinance in packet is for first read for you tonight.
Well, I'll go last. If anyone else wants to speak first, feel free. Anybody?
I will say that I agree with the ZBA in terms of approving the variance only because you do have a larger right-of-way there that pushes that sign back a little bit. I actually was driving here tonight and stopped at the stoplight at Marley there, and it's actually difficult to have both signs, one on one side of the road, one on the other, in your field of vision without having to turn your head. So I feel okay about that. I also agree with them on not changing any ordinances at this point. Personal opinion, those signs, they could be unsightly if there's too many of them in a small area, and they could be distracting. And I don't know that we need to be creating distractions on a busy road like Route 30, so I would agree with them on not changing anything yet.
The reason we did is because we don't want Route 30 to look like Las Vegas.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I'm not in favor of the variance for that very reason, because this is just over half of what we allow. And we're going to get inundated with others along Route 30 that want the same exact thing. And it's going to be real difficult for us. I'm not even talking from a legal perception. I'm just talking about, in the interest of fairness to others that ask. So on the contrary, if the board is inclined to approve this, then I would rather we open it up and be consistent with what we're doing, which I'm also not in favor of, but it's not me, it's the board. Because if you grant this variance here, we got a sign guy here, he probably wants us to grant it, to open it up and let him go every 20 feet. But if we grant the variance here, I think it's going to be really difficult to tell others along Route 30 that they can't have it, and then it's going to be the Las Vegas Strip. And that, I remember when we did this, I was here, we had, I don't know how long ago it was, Robin.
It was 2012.
Wow, okay, so 13 years ago, and we had a conversation for that very reason. So the board can obviously make the decision. We're just here for first read tonight anyway, but those are my concerns.
So you'd rather stick with it and not look at.
I'd rather stick with it, or if the board feels that, 250 feet or 300 feet, I don't know what we would base that on. I'm not an expert in that. There's a lot that goes into it.
The one stipulation that staff discussed with the Zoning Board of Appeals was having it per side of the street. So you would still have that separation, but in this case where they're kitty corner or across the street.
So we're just going like this, looking at electronic signs that are 250 feet? Again, the board gets to make this decision. Those are my comments on it. Robin needs to hear your input before she brings it back.
It's
So
first read,
please,
right?
I beg your pardon?
First read, right?
It's first read, but she needs to know Any comments or thoughts that you have?
So
You and
my-
I have given ours, but now.
The first thing that popped into my head was Vegas. Literally the first thing that popped into my head. Is the sole purpose of this sign just for signing up advertisers to throw advertisements on? Like, do we know what the purpose
No,
or
it
the
has to be
use is?
limited to what business is being conducted. So similar to Newmark, if they've got deals on loans, CDs, it would just be to
Yeah.
provide commercial, and the other thing that staff looked at to the point of being unsightly is they could do a manual changeable copy sign, that would be allowed, but, letters fall off, those tend to not hold up real well over time.
There's other ways of advertising in this day and age than signs. So, social media, there's all kind of ways they can advertise their product. They've got a very nice sign in front of their building. I agree with you. Those plastic letters on boards are not sightly either. But that also, I would hope that a professional business wouldn't want one of those anyway. So, I don't know. Not a fan. Others?
Yeah, I wouldn't lean towards changing it. I'd like to keep that minimum and reduce the amount of flashing interfaces, I guess you could say.
I'm in agreement.
You in agreement, Jim?
I guess personally, what was the reason behind the 500 feet? That's just because that's the reason was to
There is studies that show, it has to do with distraction and other things I know as well, but go ahead.
I honestly don't recall there being any major science behind it, other than we were just kind of looking at what's a reasonable size of a commercial shopping center so that you didn't have multiple ones within a short amount of.
Yeah, it was
short
certainly about
distance.
aesthetics, that's for sure, but I do know that when we had this conversation, we did talk about distracted driving and having flashing as you're driving down. And of course, but it was primarily because you don't want it to look like the Strip. I mean, so, and I don't think we do. We are a town that probably has more sign restrictions than any other town I've ever heard of. What size they can be, how many they can have per building. We're very, very restrictive, even on static signs that hang on buildings as to their size. And they can only have it on one side and not two or whatever.
They're smaller.
You know what it is, unless they're a little small ones. So if we're going to be that restrictive on those signs, which I agree, because it doesn't make buildings look good if they've just got billboards all over them, why would we allow our main drag through town to have flashing lights every 250 feet?
The ordinance right now doesn't say anything about it being different if it's on the opposite side of the street. It's just 500 feet.
Just 500.
Straight line.
Correct.
Got it.
Sign to sign.
Okay.
Right,
do
sign to
also-
sign.
Yep.
I do also think it will set a precedence where if we do it for one, then there's going to be a big expectation that I think a lot of people are going to come out of the woodwork and start asking.
Oh, they will. And again, I'm not even talking about a legal precedence, because if we can come up with some reason for why we're doing it, we can grant the variance. I'm just talking about a matter of fairness.
Exactly.
And we're going to have a real difficult time. We want to be supportive of all of our businesses. Somebody who's, well, you let 270 feet, I'm only 248 feet. Can I have one? And there's a reason why we put it there. And if it was nothing more than just, we felt that was a safe distance to prohibit it from looking cheesy going down the street and distracting, then that's why it's there. They're nice signs. I'm not anti electronic signage. I just don't think we need them going all the way down the road.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, but I do think in this particular case, seeing that it's opposite sides and actually driving through it, I could see where if we wanted to be lenient, there's room to be lenient on this particular one, but I also completely understand where you're coming from, where we don't want to set the precedent.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
So, but hey, that's why there's 7 of us up here.
And there's-
I'll get to make a decision.
There's nowhere else in New Lenox where it doesn't hit the 500 feet. Everywhere else is at least 500. I don't know how many of these signs there are, even on 30.
So just by a fluke, staff noticed that Speed Truck and Lenny's at Schoolhouse and Laraway both have them, and they're about the same distance.
How'd that happen?
I think because Speed Truck took so long to go through the process, and then Lenny came in a shorter amount of time, it just slipped.
It was missed.
Was missed.
Well,
But that
That's
is
not
another, to your
good, but-
point, that is a location where they do exist.
Well, that's not good, but just
No.
because we make a mistake once doesn't mean we should repeat it.
That's good.
I agree with that. And I guess we don't want to be vague, like big flashing lights everywhere, but in my head, these aren't flashy signs. The signs probably broadcasting, here's our new deal, so I don't have to update my sign every 3 minutes, like gas station signage, which we have gas stations across the street from one another with electronic signs on it too, and that's what I kind of view these as being. So I know it's first read, but that's kind of my opinion on it, is I don't view these as flashy signs. We've already, like you said, we may have it once, and we want to make precedent of it, but at that point, they can come back and say what we were worried about saying if we did it for them, for someone else.
Well, but that's entirely different. I mean, there's even legal precedent. I mean, that happens in contracts too. I mean, just because you make a mistake one time, you're not forced to continue to make the same mistake over and over.
Right.
So, I mean, and there's legal precedent for that. So looks like we won't have a unanimous vote, but that's okay. Just bring it back for second read. You've got the opinions of the board. But again, I would just reiterate that I would rather, if the majority of the board felt that 500 feet was too restrictive, I would rather open it up and be fair and look at something different. But if we're not inclined to do that, which it doesn't sound like we are, then I'm not in favor of the variance. All right, we'll bring it back.
Okay.
Suspense, because we have no meeting for 3 weeks now, so everyone will live in suspense. All right, thank you. All right, next up is consideration of an ordinance authorizing the installation of an all-way stop sign at Pine Street and Second Avenue, where of course we know we've got construction issues, but there's always issues over in that area because of the church. Will, you want to talk a little bit about the stop sign?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, so basically everything you said, ditto that. And then, after a little bit more investigation in that area, there is church, there's school there's a lot of pedestrians that are walking to and from those places. Additionally, there's some like trees and shrubs and things that make it a little more difficult to see when you're at the stop sign on Second Avenue to see traffic coming down Pine. So looking at that stuff and kind of looking at what the MUTCD allows, a lot of pedestrian traffic, trying to eliminate that, but any hazards with that, as well as, not being able to see in that sight triangle very well. So that was something that it seemed like a good spot to add a couple stop signs there.
All right, and we're looking to, if the board is so inclined, to waive second read on this because of the urgency with the construction that's happening, the increased traffic over there. I would also say, Mark, I know we talked about this before, when the stop signs go out, clearly they have those lights. We just got to make sure that they're working. I know they typically do, but just make sure. And then also make sure we talk to the chief. We've already stepped up patrol over there, but especially if the board approves the stop sign, increase patrols in that area to make sure people are stopping at stop signs.
They have already, and the residents have been very thankful for the police being in that area.
Yeah, they have. They've done a great job. I called Mike on a Saturday, and a half hour later, they were over there taking care of it. But with the stop sign, we need additional
Definitely.
patrols, especially by the stop sign. Any questions for Will on that?
I do. On this stop sign, so when traffic is coming to and from the school and the church during busy times, is this not, by adding this stop sign, is this just not going to move the traffic over to Third, since there isn't going to be a stop sign there? Are we just going to move the issue from one street over to the next street?
Third already has a stop sign.
Does it have one there?
No, there's stop signs on First, Second, Third, and Fourth. There's not on Fourth, sorry, because Fourth is just that turn there. But they're on those avenues, First, Second, Third. Nothing on Pine.
It's Pine
So-
has the long stretch, and this is
Yeah.
the middle section of.
Oh, okay, okay,
So there
okay.
is east-west stop signs. There isn't
Got it, okay.
north-south stop sign.
That was my concern, that it was just going to move traffic from.
Correct.
Right.
Got it.
No, it's a good question, but
Okay.
there's times where we look at that where there are long stretches of residential road with nothing.
Yeah.
And that happens to be the case. It's really surprising in all these years with the school and church.
Correct.
That this hasn't come up. It's just been exacerbated
And
because.
there is an isn't a great sight lines coming out of there also.
Well, and there isn't, that's right. And it wasn't that many years ago when we did the Pine Street there weren't even sidewalks on both sides of the streets. And I don't even know if all of them have that now. I know we added sidewalks.
They're on
Just on
one
one
side of
side.
all of those streets.
Yeah, on one side, but there wasn't with ditches. I mean, there's still only places where there's only one sidewalk.
And we formalized the parking there too.
Yeah.
at the time.
What's that?
We added more parking. There was
Right,
actually.
they would pave the
paved
parking
Yeah,
lot.
we worked on an area, plus it had flooding, we worked on that and corrected all those problems, but traffic is worse now, of course, but.
Yeah,
All right, very good.
I was glad to see that on the agenda tonight. Used to live over there, and I think it's been a long time coming.
Agreed.
I agree. I go to church over there, and it is hard to make a left onto
Mm-hmm.
Pine, leaving the church. My only thought is that when people are on Pine and they're stopping during busy hours, like what is it going to be like for the residents that are waiting to get out of their house if there's a line of traffic on Pine?
I mean, first of all, that's a great question, but understand that staff had a meeting with the residents over there, and this is part of their request as well, so they're
So they're
looking,
fine-
they are
they're fine?
looking for
Okay.
this.
The one thing they did have, and that's a good point that you brought up, actually, that knowing that someone's going to be stopping, right now, there's a worry, there are no stops. There is more because of Cedar being out of, there aren't, and it's, that
harder to
there
get
was
out.
an anticipated stop. Hopefully, someone would be kind, but yes,
Right,
to,
right. I just
that
wanted
this gives
them
them a
to-
little bit more of a break than if they didn't have it.
Right.
You know, it's tough. When this municipality, like all municipality, was planned years and years ago, you wouldn't have put a wastewater treatment plant at the center of your town, and you certainly wouldn't have put one in a residential neighborhood. But, off Daniel Lewis, but they didn't know 50, 60 years ago. So having a church in this area, in this residential area where it kind of dead ends there, it's not ideal, but it's.
You
but-
wouldn't have industrial off of Fourth Street
Yeah,
either.
yeah, exactly right. You wouldn't. But, I mean, you can't blame the people 50, 60 years ago that were doing this stuff. But, yeah, it is kind of,
As long as they're happy, that's all that
well,
matters.
They're less.
they will be happier.
Happier, yes, I did see that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we needed to do something with that roundabout clearly.
Right.
That needed to happen. And construction is never good. Jim's going through it in his neighborhood right now. Although I'm not really thrilled about Laraway's widening anyway, but that's a county project and they're just looking for one more place to put trucks, so, which I'm not a fan of, but that was their project, not ours. Construction's tough in the long run. In this case, it will be better off what we're doing. But the construction or not, the stop sign's needed over there. All right, any other questions? All right, is there a motion to waive a second read?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Wilson, second by trustee Christopherson. All those in favor signify by a voice vote of aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now is there a motion to adopt the ordinance for the stop sign?
So moved.
Second,
Motion by trustee Galuza, second by trustee Scalise. Comments or questions? Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Riser?
Aye.
Trustee Galuza?
Aye.
Trustee Scalise?
aye.
Trustee Wilson?
Aye.
Trustee Christopherson?
Aye.
Mayor Balderman?
Aye, motion carries. Okay, next up is consideration for approval of professional service agreement, HR Green Plan Review and Building Inspection Services. Robin?
Yes, so the village has been using HR Green for building inspection since 2016, and the relationship has worked really well. Our current agreement was our previous agreement was 3 years and just expired at the end of the fiscal year. So included in packet is another 3-year term. This would take us through April 30th of 2028. There are a couple of changes. In anticipation of higher residential new construction with Tierling Lakes and Lakes Park, beginning next year, they would provide us with an additional inspector a couple of days a week as needed. But I wanted to make sure that that was included in here because there is kind of a industry shortage of building inspectors. So I wanted it to be clear in this agreement that one person 5 days a week is not going to cut it as those projects get going. And to that end, in order for them to continue to attract top talent, they had to increase their hourly rate, which is reflected in a higher hourly rate in this agreement for this first year, but then they are holding that steady with no increase the second year and then 4% increase the third year. So staff has been very satisfied with HR Green services and is requesting board approval of the 3-year agreement.
Yeah, this is one of those circumstances where I'm not always a big fan of this, of hiring people from the outside, but HR Green has done a great job for us. And it's certainly, it ebbs and flows as far as our busyness and need for inspectors go. And when someone's working for you full-time, you can't say, okay, we'll see you in 6 months when we need you back again. So to be able to add or decrease for our need, and ultimately, when you're not paying some of the other benefits and some of the other costs, this is more beneficial for us financially as well. And they do an excellent job. And coupled with the fact, like Robin said, and Kurt and I talked about earlier, it's getting harder and harder to find these people. So it's definitely to our benefit.
And as you said, the ability to gear up and gear down.
Yeah.
And initially, when this came in, we were saving over 6 figures a year in how we're doing, and we became even more efficient.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not always a fan of that, because when we know what we get with our employees. We have 110 employees, and we get the very best. They take pride in what they do. This is more than just a job for them. So when you're hiring an outside group to come in to do these things, you always have to be a little concerned. They're just a hired gun for a period of time and then they move on. HR Green hasn't treated it that way. Our staff would not allow them to treat it that way if there was any issues. And they have popped up from time to time. More just a matter of not knowing exactly how we want to do things. So I don't, other than maybe like with the Public Works Director or something like that, where we should consider hiring someone from the outside and moving on. Right, Mark? Is that, well, after your podcast interview, we were thinking. But no, to me, that's the downside. I like having our own, but when it changes what we're doing so frequently.
Well, one of the
up and
nice
down.
things too is their employees have lived in town. So a number of the employees that they've contracted with us live here in town, so they do have some
Yeah,
pride in
and I'm just
wanna
going
make it
to
a
add,
requirement? That they
we've
have
been
to live here?
fortunate to have a consistent staff member pretty much dedicated to us, so there's not, kind of this
Right.
revolving door of inspectors. So there's somebody that's familiar with our codes, familiar with our contractors, so it has worked out really well.
But we have so much going on, especially with Lakes Park and Tearling Lakes and the commercial. I mean, we're going to have a need for other people who are not here as frequently, so we have to make sure that your staff is on top of them and doing what they need to do. Any questions?
Yeah, just so I'm clear on this, we only pay for what we use. It's,
Correct.
yeah,
Yes.
okay, that's great.
Correct.
So when you say ebb and flow, if it's busy, we got Tearling Lakes, they've got
Bring
a
in
bunch of
more.
houses that, yep, okay. So
Absolutely.
it's not like a stipulated sum, we're paying that, and if we
No.
don't use all the time, we're.
If we were doing that, we would just hire staff.
Yeah, good.
And it's tougher and tougher to find staff, and one of the things we found was in the winter, when things were slower, you're paying them full year.
Yep.
Now, we
Yep.
pay them while they're doing work.
No, that's excellent. Great.
Okay, if there's no other questions, is there a motion to approve the professional service agreement with HR Green?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Scalise, second by trustee Riser. There's nothing further. A roll call vote, please.
Trustee Riser?
Aye.
Trustee Galuza?
Aye.
Trustee Wilson?
Aye.
Trustee Scalise?
Aye.
Trustee Christopherson?
Aye.
Mayor Balderman?
Aye, all right, Robin, and then approval, you're looking for approval of professional service agreement with them for permit process analysis and staff training.
Yeah, when staff sat down to discuss the agreement that you just approved, we also asked if they had any experience or could direct us somewhere where we could train our clerical support staff to be more permit techs. And they actually have a very qualified person on their staff that has done this in other municipalities. The benefit too is that she's familiar with the BS&A software that we use and are going to be upgrading, which is next on your agenda. So we would not envision this occurring until later this year over the winter. One, so that we have the benefit of the new software. Two, we will have a retirement the beginning of November, so we'll want to have the new person involved in the training. And most importantly, that's kind of our slow time, so we could actually dedicate staff time towards this training. So there's a not-to-exceed amount of $15,400, but it will be billed on actual hours performed.
Very good. Any questions for Robin? All right, is there a motion to approve the professional service agreement with HR Green for permit process analysis and staff training?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Scalise, second by trustee Christopherson. If there's nothing further, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Christopherson?
Aye.
Trustee Galuza?
Aye.
Trustee Scalise?
Aye.
Trustee Wilson.
Aye.
Trustee Riser.
Aye.
Mayor Balderman.
Aye, motion carries. Next up is consideration for approval of software enhancement, BS&A. Their current software for most of the departments converting from an on-premise software program to a web-based software program. It was anticipated expenditure, was included in budget. Cost of the upgrade is $124,900 for the upgrade and $118,500 in service fees, which includes data conversion and training. Any questions on that? All right, is there a motion to approve the software enhancement?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Scalise, second by trustee Christopherson. If there's nothing further, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Wilson.
Aye.
Trustee Christopherson.
Aye.
Trustee Galuza.
Aye.
Trustee Scalise.
Aye.
Trustee Riser.
Aye.
Mayor Balderman.
Aye, motion carries. Next up, consideration for approval of purchase HVAC air handlers and components for the Village Hall. Mark?
As we know, we've had issues with the HVAC system here at the Village Hall for some time. In March, we upgraded the front-end software. Now the next step is to start replacing the air handlers and some of the components that go along with it. So it's going to be a two-year project. This year we'll be doing the air handler for cable TV for this area and then also for the office areas. Those are our biggest issues. So Building Automation Solutions has been doing all our work for years now. So we recommend accepting the proposal from them for $145,900.
All right, so we want to stick with the people who are doing this, but in order to do that, we need to waive the formal bidding process. I mean, it makes sense to stick with the same company, but any questions for Mark? All right, first, is there a motion to waive the formal bid process?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Scalise, second by trustee Wilson. Comments or questions? Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Riser.
Aye.
Trustee Galuza.
Aye.
Trustee Scalise.
Aye.
Trustee Wilson.
Aye.
Trustee Christopherson.
Aye.
Mayor Balderman.
Aye, motion carries. Now, is there a motion for the approval of purchase?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Scalise, second by trustee Galuza. Comments or questions? Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Christopherson.
Aye.
Trustee Wilson.
Aye.
Trustee Scalise.
Aye.
Trustee Galuza.
Aye.
Trustee Riser.
Aye.
Mayor Balderman.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, next up is consideration of approval of proposal for a fuel tank system up at the Crossroads Sports Complex. Obviously, we need some fuel tanks up there for what we're doing. It also is another good place, since we're gonna have more, officers and public works and people up in that part of town, especially adding Tierling Lakes, where they can refuel. This is another one, Crown Storage Tank and Piping Construction, Pump Construction Specialist is who installed and maintains our tanks now. We want to stick with them for a number of reasons, one of which is the same fob can be used at either location. Their bid is $53,808. So in order to integrate the systems, if you're good with that, we'd also need to waive the formal bid process. Any questions on that? Okay, is there a motion to waive the formal bid?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Scalise, second by trustee Christopherson. If there's nothing further, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Riser.
Aye.
Trustee Galuza.
Aye.
Trustee Wilson.
Aye.
Trustee Scalise.
Aye.
Trustee Christopherson.
Aye.
Mayor Balderman.
Aye, motion carries. Now, is there a motion to approve the proposal for the fuel tank system?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Scalise, second by trustee Wilson. If there's nothing further, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Christopherson.
Aye.
Trustee Scalise.
Aye.
Trustee Wilson.
Aye.
Trustee Galuza.
Aye.
Trustee Riser.
Aye.
Mayor Balderman.
Aye. All right, next up is consideration for approval of a resolution accepting a plat of dedication for a portion of Haven Avenue. The portion is located on the south side of the Maplewood Cemetery. 331 West Haven Avenue is owned by the township. The village is going to need a utility easement over that section of Haven Avenue to install a force main for the next phase of water resource recovery facility. So we are just looking to accept the plat of dedication from the township. Any questions on that? Okay, is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved. Second.
Motion by trustee Riser, second by trustee Scalise. If there's nothing further, a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Christopherson.
Aye.
Trustee Galuza.
Aye.
Trustee Scalise.
Aye.
Trustee Wilson.
Aye.
Trustee Riser.
Aye.
Mayor Balderman.
Aye, motion carries. Next up, we have consideration for approval of proposal for asbestos removal at 114 North Cedar Road. It was solicited from Asbestos Project Management in a total of $3,200. This is all part of that project that we have over there for that triangle. Brian's really been doing a nice job on all that over there. He really has stayed on top of all that. Any questions on that? All right, is there a motion to approve the proposal?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Galuza, second by trustee Scalise. If there's nothing further, a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Wilson.
Aye.
Trustee Christopherson.
Aye.
Trustee Galuza.
Aye.
Trustee Scalise.
Aye.
Trustee Riser.
Aye.
Mayor Balderman.
Aye. Okay, next up is consideration for the approval of proposal for the demolition of 114 North Cedar Road. We went out and got quotes. We got 3 of them. They were all very close. Bisbing was in the amount of $27,850. They were the second lowest bidder, but only by $325. They are New Lenox local, but they're technically township, but they've done work for us before, so it doesn't quite meet our local bidder ordinance. So, but they've done great work, and it's $325. So what I'm asking for tonight is that we waive the formal bid process again on this and give the work to Bisbing. Again, a number of their people live here in town. They are New Lenox, just not proper.
They plow our train station.
Yeah, they do a lot of work for us. They do good work, and it's $325 that Kurt said if he had a problem with it, he would kick that in. Right, Kurt? All right, there you go. Any questions on that? Okay, is there a motion to waive the formal bid process?
So moved. Second.
Motion by trustee Galuza, second by trustee Christopherson. If there's nothing further, a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Riser.
Aye.
Trustee Galuza.
Aye.
Trustee Scalise.
Aye.
Trustee Wilson.
Aye.
Trustee Christopherson.
Aye.
Mayor Balderman.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, next up is consideration for approval of resolution authorizing an agreement with the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150. They are 150 operators. Our Public Works team, as you know, are phenomenal. We had a great negotiation session with them. Are we okay?
We only wait.
Oh, I only waived second bid? I only waived it? I don't know. We've had so many of those tonight. I have so many votes. All right, let's go back then. Let's approve the proposal for the demolition for Bisbing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Scalise, second by trustee Galuza. If there's nothing further, a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Riser.
Aye.
Trustee Galuza.
Aye.
Trustee Scalise.
Aye.
Trustee Wilson.
Aye.
Trustee Christopherson.
Aye.
Mayor Balderman.
Aye, motion carries. Hey, listen, there's a lot going on up here. All right, as I was saying, we have a tremendous Public Works Department. When we do our contracts with our employees, with our union employees, our police sergeants, our patrolmen, our Public Works employees, they are always very professional and friendly. They know how much we care about them and what they do. They appreciate all the good things that we do for them, but they're hardworking people and they deserve fair contracts. And Public Works is certainly no exception to that. Mark and his crew do a great job for our village. We're very, very fortunate to have them. This was, as most of them are, a pretty quick negotiation session where everyone just is respectful and fair, and so it's before you tonight for your approval. Is there a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the agreement?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Riser, second by trustee Scalise. There's nothing further. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Riser.
Aye.
Trustee Galuza.
Aye.
Trustee Wilson.
Aye.
Trustee Scalise.
Aye.
Trustee Christopherson.
Aye.
Mayor Balderman.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, on our reports and communications, a few things. First of all, other than some difficult weather, the first farmers market went off very well. Great job by staff and everyone getting ready for that. There was a big turnout. So hopefully the weather cooperates where you can get all the way through it, but I know some of the vendors had sold out and it was just very well received. So it was nice to see. Those are on Thursdays out in the front here of the Village Hall. Second, of course, concert tickets remain on sale. We would encourage everybody to go online. You can get that information off our website for purchasing those tickets. Finally, I won't speak for Robin, but I learned more about solar in the last couple months than I had ever hoped to learn about. As is evident by the actions that this board has taken tonight and will take at the next board meeting, we are not anti-solar, but the solar farm that was proposed off Haven and between Haven and Illinois Highway, just east of Nelson, Robin and I and Jamie Brown from the fire department, as well as a number of residents, spoke to their plan commission, then we spoke to their land use committee, and unfortunately I was out of town, but Robin went and spoke, as did Jamie and some of the residents, to the full county board. And we're pleased to say that they rejected this solar plan by a vote of 16-5. We made very valid arguments on a number of fronts as to why this was not the right place for this. But Robin and Jenny and her staff did a great job. Robin did a great job of speaking on our behalf as well. When I couldn't make it, and when I spoke, she spoke as well at all three. I was 2 for 3. You were there for all three, but really did a wonderful job of showing that this is not just something, a NIMBY, not my backyard type of thing. That happens. Our residents that spoke about it had very valid reasons for why they didn't want it there. But we all know that you can't govern based on just the people's opinion that live in the area and don't like something. But it was so much more than that. The millions of dollars that we spent on putting Nelson Road through, what it would do to the remainder of the property, making it nearly impossible to develop anything other than asking for industrial. So our hope is our comprehensive plan is that we continue to grow responsibly and see homes come in that neighborhood, which is residential. So, Robin, great job. You really did a great job of articulating why, from a land use standpoint, that this did not make sense. So thank you for that. You really did well. I think there was one other thing I was going to say, but I don't remember what it was right now. So if I think of it, I'll interrupt one of you later. But that's all I have for tonight. If there is nothing else for me, village attorney?
Nothing tonight.
All right, very good. Village administrator?
And you may have known, maybe it was this, Mayor, I know it was shared with me today, that new water feature, the outdoor feature at the museum have been very, very well received. And I heard the number today. We've been open 8 months there, and I think we've surpassed the totals they've had in the past by about 10,000, with 4 months left to go in a calendar year that they've been open. So those numbers have been very, very good.
Yeah, they're amazing. Thanks for trying to bail me out, but no, that wasn't it. But that's very true. Yeah, no, those features are amazing. If you haven't been over there, check them out. I mean, they're being very well received. That's great news. Thank you. All right, that's all I have. Payroll and disbursements, Trustee Scalise.
I make the motion to approve our bi-monthly disbursements in the amount of $8,772,371.52. In addition to these disbursements, approval is needed for a payroll in the amount of $552,681.02 paid on May 16th, 2025, and that is in a form of a motion.
And I will second that.
Okay, motion's been properly moved and seconded. Any comments or questions? All right, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Christofferson?
Aye.
Trustee Galuza?
Aye.
Trustee Scalise?
Aye.
Trustee Wilson?
Aye.
Trustee Riser?
Aye.
Mayor Balderman?
Aye, motion carries. Anything else, Lindsay?
That's it, sir.
All right. Questions or comments from the floor? Anything tonight? No? Just checking it out. Would you like to say something?
No, I'm with the new Lenox 1 solar project. That's the rooftop solar project. that
Oh, there you go.
Draft read tonight.
Hey, please step up and just state your name. This is on the 25-acre one? Or is this on the rooftop one? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, my name's Cale Skagen with Dimension Energy. The project name is called New Lenox CSG1. So that was discussed at length with the Planning Commission 2 weeks ago. And yeah, happy to answer any questions anybody has. I'll leave you a copy of my card just so you have it. We are planning another rooftop one down the street in the Cherry Hill Business Park. So same drill, smaller system, not nearly as far progressed with ComEd as
In the new
Disbursement.
Lenox side of Cherry Hill Business Park or the Joliet side?
New Lenox,
It is.
I
And-
believe. I'll have to double.
Well,
check.
it is split there.
Okay.
Half of it's ours and half of it is in Joliet.
Yeah, I'm almost certain it's in New Lenox, but I'll double check that.
Well, that's the better half.
Yeah.
On that side of Joliet.
So I've heard.
That's right. I have a question since you're bringing it up, and again, learned a lot about solar, but I don't know all of it. So if it's not that far away, and this is a massive 1.2 million square foot building, I know you're only putting it at half, but at what point, I mean, would it make sense for everyone over there to have rooftop solar, or can you oversaturate an area? I don't know the answer to that.
You can, yeah, and that is the reason why they're not on every rooftop. Because
Okay.
the local circuit can only handle so much, so.
So how far away is the new one that you're looking at, and what's like the best distance to keep these? I know it's
Within
a
a
lot of the
couple
size,
miles,
but,
yeah, within a couple miles, it's, I believe it's north, like a mile or two. I can double check that, but it really just depends on the circuit, the individual circuit. If it's a higher voltage circuit, it might be able to take more. If it's already got a lot of generation on it, it may not have room for us. So,
but can it supply power to others outside of the building that it's mounted on?
yeah, so this one, actually, the community solar model, it does not, while it's located on the roof, it's not serving that building's loads. So it has a new utility service at the ground, feeds into the grid, and then through the Illinois Shines Community Solar Program, customers subscribe to that production, kind of like a ledger or balance sheet.
Sure.
So, if you don't put solar panels on your house, but you still sign up for this program, you can get a reduced electric bill, just based on that generation, and that's a state program.
So if you're in Cherry Hill Business Park, obviously with this one, and you're gonna plan another one in Cherry Hill Business Park, let's just say the one that was proposed that we objected to and that the county board voted down, if they would have gone in there, which is right across from the Cherry Hill Business Park, with the three of those, assuming that your other one gets approved, is that oversaturating, or is that,
It shouldn't be, they all should be on.
they're
different-
they're not moving forward, so, I mean,
Yeah.
yes is okay, just tell me.
It depends on the circuit. There's a lot of circuits that there's underground circuits, there's the above head ones, different voltages, so it really depends. We sometimes do 3 or 4 applications with ComEd or Ameren just to identify the circuit that has the capacity, and if they need us to run an extension of the feeder, we can do that as well.
But there's a formula, so obviously at some point comment or whatever, okay, it doesn't work anymore.
And it's honestly a bit of a black box with utilities, so they don't often show you exactly where an alternate would be. You just have to kind of guess and
Play around,
hope for the best.
just try, okay. All right, very good. Any questions for, well, thank you for being here tonight.
Sure,
Appreciate
yeah,
it.
we'll be back. So the next meeting is the final read of that ordinance, granting us a special use, is that correct?
Yes, for the 1.2, yeah.
Would be
It's
June
June
9th.
9th,
And
okay.
I'm assuming consent agenda.
Yeah, I mean, there was no concerns or questions for it, so,
Okay.
I mean, you're welcome to attend, but if they're not paying you extra to be here, I wouldn't worry about it. I'll let you know. Okay?
Noted. All right, thank you.
All right, sounds good, thank you. All right, trustee comments, trustee Riser.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Thank you, trustee Christopherson.
I don't have anything tonight.
Okay, trustee Galuza.
Me neither.
Very good, trustee Wilson.
Nothing tonight.
Trustee Scalise.
I have one thing. I went with the family this week to the Commons just to walk around, do our family walk, and the Commons is looking really nice with the sidewalks. I have to say, like, they look so much better. I'm glad that that all happened over there. It's
Definitely, yeah.
safer. It's just looking so much better. The trees are gone on that one side, on the outside, so it looks really nice.
Much safer, much cleaner, looks nice. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right, great comment, yeah.
Yeah, the grates are gone. All that stuff is gone, so that's good.
Excellent. All right, very good. All right, well, if there's nothing further, we have no need for executive session tonight, so is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Scalise, second by trustee Wilson. All those in favor signify by voice vote of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, meeting adjourned.